Water System Community Information Meeting. I'd like to provide some introductions. I'm Steph Short. I'm the Deputy Corporate Officer at Bowen Island Municipality. We have Kristen Watson is here today. She's our Chief Financial Officer. Thanks, Kristen. We have Patrick Graham. He's our Director of Engineering. Wave your hand, Patrick. We have Annette Frischman as our Utilities Coordinator. Annette. And Garrett Dunst is our Utilities Supervisor. And Councillor Allison Morris is our water representative for the council. We'll be getting information about our water system today. I'd like to encourage you to ask questions throughout the meeting whenever you feel the need. You can write the question in the chat on Zoom, raise your physical hand or raise your digital hand. And I can make sure that space and time is found for you. Okay, let's get going. Patrick's going to have a presentation about operations and infrastructure update. Thanks, Patrick.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just getting that presentation up. Okay. See my screen?
Patrick, I'm glad to see you.
Hi, Thomas.
Hello.
Hi, Tom. Okay, so I just wanted to go over some of the key issues that we've been seeing in your water system. Probably the most pressing issue is related to the disinfection byproducts that we're seeing in the water. There's concentrations of THMs and HAAs, as trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids, I think is how you say it, that react with, when chlorine reacts with organics in the water, you get these compounds, and there's a lot of uncertainty around the long-term health impacts. So there's actually some very conservative guidelines for what the maximum concentrations of these compounds should be in the water. So we have been seeing higher levels. We have over the past several months been taking various measures in an attempt to reduce the levels of THMs and HAAs. One of these measures was to reinstate a higher number of flushing locations throughout the system and to increase the flow rates at all of these locations so that there's more flushing happening throughout the system. We've also cleaned out the reservoir tank and the intake at Honeymoon Lake. We didn't see, in response to these measures, we didn't see reduced THM and HAA levels. In fact, we saw in some cases, some increase corresponding with the increased flushing that we'd implemented in the system. So it seems to indicate that it's not, the issue is more related to the source water and the level of filtration that we've got at the existing Hood Point treatment plant isn't achieving the removal of the organics that's needed or the removal of these compounds. So what we've done is engaged Urban Systems, a water treatment specialist from Urban Systems, to work with us on figuring out the most appropriate solution. So right now we're doing some comprehensive testing of the raw water, the Honeymoon Lake water. That's underway. And once Lisa, the water treatment specialist has that information, we will get some feedback from her and her team on what our best course of action might be or should be. And that could involve installing carbon filters. And the amount of space that's needed for that might require addition to the treatment plant building. Those are details that we still have to figure out. But it is an important issue, and we are advancing on a solution.
Patrick, to Allison, what kind of filters are there now? Are there sand filters there now?
Yeah, they're sand filters.
And the carbon would be in addition to the sand filter or replace them? Or you
in
don't know
addition
yet?
to,
Okay.
likely in addition to, yeah. So, the other water system issues, we have a second UV unit to be installed. That's in the works to add system redundancy. This is something that Vancouver Coastal Health has required for the system. So we will be doing that in the next few months. Then the other issue that is ongoing is the related to the security of the supply main from Honeymoon Lake. So it is prone to freezing in the wintertime. And Garrett has been looking at how we might adjust the continuous flow settings to try and prevent that from occurring. Other measures that could be taken would be to insulate the main, which is, is a big job. Some of the areas are fairly inaccessible. And we would likely start with some of the sections that we have seen most commonly freeze. There's also the vulnerability of this supply main to tree falls or rock falls. So we'll be looking at doing some hazard assessments and probably some tree removals to manage that risk. The other item that's not on the list here is relating to the Honeymoon Lake Dam. This keeps coming up at every meeting we have. We talked about doing some additional analysis to reduce the level of consequence rating to low, which we believe is reasonable and doable. What's been happening? We have engaged CREAS to do that. They have been dealing with the dam safety officer and a lot of back and forth with them on the very same issue for a dam up at Cypress. And they keep, apparently the dam safety officer keeps changing. They'll provide some analysis and then he wants, something additional or something else, something done a different way. So they're really trying to make sure that they have it very clear what the requirements are before they start spending money and doing analysis on our behalf for Honeymoon Lake. But it's not something we've forgotten about. It's just we're waiting for these issues with the dam safety officer to be sorted out for this other project. So those are really the main issues that we're dealing with in the Hood Point system. If there's any questions about that, can talk about that now.
Thank you, Patrick.
Can I, it's Tom Raphael. I'm sorry, I had a technical problem getting joined. Who's at this meeting? I don't see any.
Do you want to close your screen, Patrick, or take your screen down?
Yeah.
And hi, Tom. We have Jesse
Hello.
Montgomery's here from the previous advisory committee.
You should be able to go under the participants list at the bottom on your
I
Zoom
knew
thing.
you'd tell me what to do, Allison.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Can you do it?
Yeah. Click on participants list and the list of everybody that's here will come up.
All 14 people by
Yeah.
name?
Yeah.
Okay, but there's no way of seeing them.
Oh, you just
Um,
go on full screen gallery view under view.
I don't see you.
Oh,
But
okay.
okay, if I know who's generally council members, or but please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Patrick
I'll
regarding
be there. They're in the big.
Input point? Okay, seeing none. I'm gonna ask Annette if you can share. Oh, sorry, Brock, did you have a
Yeah.
question?
I just had a question. I mean, I hear that the levels are high, but what are the health implications? At what point do we stop drinking the water?
Well, the health implications are largely unknown. Like there's not a lot of information, and we did put out a question and answer brochure on THMs and HAAs that explained, what the possible health implications are. There's some, possible links to certain types of cancer and other potential implications from long-term exposure. When I asked our drinking water officer about that question, is it safe to drink the water? What do we tell them in that case? He did say that it is, you would consider it safe to drink the water. It's not something that, we need to get into a crisis over, but it is something that we want to resolve, to make sure that users of the system aren't having that long-term exposure continuing.
Patrick, how would people find that brochure you're referring to? Is it posted on the Hood Point website under the water systems?
Yeah, it's on the water systems page. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I'll
So
put a link in the chat.
if you follow that link on the agenda, you would find it there. All right, Steph said she was going to put it into the chat. So even more direct.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions for Patrick? At this point? Okay, if you think of something later, don't be afraid to ask. Annette, do you want to share information about consumption and quality?
Yes, I can talk to the water quality report that is published every year. Currently, we have the 2023 water quality report published on the website with all its supporting documents. The link is in the agenda. Patrick has already mentioned the biggest concern in the 2023 report refers to the elevated THMs and HAAs. The required sample frequency was met in 2023, namely 150 samples were collected. No sample tested positive for E. coli, and all samples tested negative for total coliforms. The chlorine residuals were generally maintained at the endpoints of the system. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions about the report itself. I don't know if people had a chance to look at it or were interested in specific information. You can always email me and ask. Then a consumption graph was prepared for this meeting, which is also in the agenda package. Maybe I can quickly share that with you on the screen.
Yes, we see it.
Yes, so this graph shows on the x-axis shows the connections. Each number is one connection of Hood Point. Hood Point actually has 98 connections currently and 7 unconnected properties. This graph, unfortunately, I made a mistake and included the unconnected properties in this graph. So there are a few zero consumption ones showing. It shows the average annual consumption of each water connection, which is 145 cubic meters. That is an average daily consumption per connection of approximately 0.45 cubic meters. And in comparison to all other municipal water systems, that is fairly close. If you look at the annual consumption, the average of the annual average of the other systems is 0.38 cubic meters per day per connection. However, it should be noted that in Hood Point specifically, the consumption goes up in July and August, as that is the main season for water usage. We are aware that the water licenses include 500 gallons per day usage allowance from the province, which is about a bit more than 2 cubic meters. However, we would remind the Hood Point water users that the system can only treat so much water per day. It's not only about how much water is available in Honeymoon Lake, it's also about our capacity of treating the water. I don't know, are there any questions about consumption or the water quality report?
Thank you.
I've
And
got
then we can
good
stop the screen share.
afternoon.
We can fill the faces.
I had a question request, if I may.
Go ahead.
It's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. I hate to put work on anyone. It would be interesting in future water quality reports and help alleviate some of the concerns I've been asked about for the THMs and HAAs to trend them out over time. So if we were able to, for example, include a graph that showed year-to-year readings, that would be a helpful request if you had an eager co-op student or something like that. Otherwise, it's just, the number on the page isn't particularly useful, but if we could see it over time too, it might also help in terms of seeing when they're higher in the season and lower and that sort of thing, and might help understand some of the things that have helped with flushing and seasonal use and that sort of thing. So just a simple request, if we, I'd intended to get around to it myself, picking through the annual reports, but never have, that if we could just, show all the DBP data we have over the years trended out, that would be beneficial, I think, just to visualize. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
okay.
Jesse. We're actually going to do a quick little 3-question survey at the end of this meeting. If you don't mind popping that into the survey, that'd be wonderful.
Thank you.
I could add that, that looks nice. I could add that I came to see Patrick because I was concerned about these excesses, and the previous 2 years also show the Hood Point water in excess of the recommended maximums. So it's not something new that's turned up this year. It's been ongoing. And I didn't go back more than 2 years, but it's been there for at least 36 months.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the water quality and consumption
So
report?
do we only get this consumption report once a year? Like if we're concerned that Hood Point is using more water than it should, if we had quarterly reports, or I mean, is there 1 or 2 users with a swimming pool or something that's using the water? Or I know we only use it like in the summer, but
Eric, we have so much water that it runs out to the sea most of the time, through the dam and down to the sea. We're not short of water. The LAC tried to keep everybody to low consumption, but the fact is it runs down to the sea because there's more water coming out than we can use.
right.
When are the meters read out there, Annette?
In Hood Point, they're at mid-February, mid-June, mid-August, and mid-November.
So we do have that data and we are compiling those readings.
Yes, yeah, and we do also usually contact individual property owners after each reading that have used more than a cubic meter per day on average.
Right, but I would suspect that June, July, August, and September are the heavy users months.
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. If there are no more questions about the physical water, we can move on to talking about how we pay for it. Kristen Watson, Chief Financial Officer, can you present, please?
Sure. Thank you, Steph. I'll just take a minute. I prepared some financial reports for the group today. I'll start with sorry.
Somebody's not muted. I can hear background.
Oh, it's probably Garrett. I'm going to mute you, Garrett.
I think it's through my door. You can probably hear people talking out there. Okay, so I'm going to talk. Once I start speaking, I'll override them. So I want to just make sure that you've got my screen now, and it's the Hood Point Water Statement of Operations and Capital Expenditures. There, it's
We can see it now.
okay, great. Wonderful. So I'll just explain this document a little bit. The sections covered in blue are the prior year final audited figures, and the sections in green over here are the current year to date financial figures where we're at. So with, I'll just speak a little bit to the 2023 figures. First of all, we had an additional $21,000 of income. Most of that was related to our investment returns on the Hood Point Reserve funds. We had a rebound in our bond fund income, and we earned, we put it in quite conservatively. I always like to put it in conservatively and come back with better investment returns. So overall, our revenues were about $20,000 higher than budgeted. And again, that's mainly due to the investment returns. As far as the expenses, we had almost a similar amount of savings. We had about $21,000 of savings, and where that came from, much of it was related to the salaries and benefits. We had expected to settle our union collective agreement in 2023. We have just recently settled that just last month, actually. So that's great. We now have a new settlement going forward, and it covers the fiscal years of 2023, 2024, and 2025. So we'll have some labor peace there for the next few months before we're back at the table again. We had some savings in our supplies and services. We do put a lot of provisions out there for potential repairs if they're needed. We just want to make sure that we budget for those as a contingency. But if we don't spend the money, we keep that money. We put that back into the Hood Point Reserve. So just so everybody is aware who isn't quite familiar with how local area services are funded on Bowen Island, but all monies raised in the Hood Point local service area are spent within the Hood Point local service area, and anything unspent at the end of the year gets contributed back into the Hood Point Reserve. So overall, looking at the reserve fund for Hood Point, we started the year with $723,000, just over that in the reserve fund, and we were able to make a contribution of $86,000, which is about 10% of that. So that's a good level of savings to be putting aside for future contingencies, for future infrastructure upgrades. We ended the year with about $810,000 in reserve. So just year to date, we're into October now, so we're in the home stretch here for this fiscal year. But the estimates for the parcel tax just to refresh your memory, the parcel tax for Hood Point in 2024 was established at $460 per year. And that is, it's not paying any debt. Hood Point has no debt. It is just a parcel tax that's raised, collected to put into reserves to ensure that you have that contribution, to make sure that when the infrastructure upgrades are done, that you've got some money there to help pay for it and to minimize any borrowing costs in the long term, which is a great way to have your financial plan set up. The user rates for Hood Point for 2024 were set at 918. So you can see we are right on target for parcel tax collection and user rate revenue collection. We're just going to end the year with additional little bit of investment income between now and December, I think. Our expenses are tracking online. I have put a provision in there for the any retro payments that are made as a result of settlement of the contract negotiations. And everything else to date, at least, is tracking on target or within budget. And if we end the year where we think we'll end the year, we do have a capital project that was budgeted for this year. Patrick, Garrett, myself, Annette, we've just met quite recently, actually, and they are looking to coordinate that project now, and that is the UV pump replacement. So we are looking to get that project done, and hopefully we'll have that done by December, so that will, you may show up in next year's financial report. I'm happy to take any questions on this part of the financial presentation. If anybody
It's
has
not a
any.
replacement, is it? I thought it was a secondary backup.
I'm sorry, I missed. What did you say, Tom?
Yeah.
So, someone said yes.
Yes,
Go ahead.
It is a second UV unit that is a backup.
We're not replacing anything. We're just backing something up because it was asked for, and that is part of the answer, Allison. In the system, the treatment system, it's UV as well.
Okay. So did you want to comment on that? Okay, does anybody else have a question for Kristen?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. The year to date, is that to September 30th? Or August 31st?
It is almost to September 30th. We didn't quite have all of our labor input by the time we put the agenda together, so we're tracking, I think, a payroll behind in labor, but yes, it's kind of mid-September.
Okay, and the you said that the parcel taxes was for the reserve, but that gets transferred at the end of the year when you know what your actual surplus is?
Yes, that's right. I just make one entry at the end of the year for all unspent revenues.
Okay, and the interest rate earned on the reserves is Bowen Island's average return on their total investment, or how does that work?
Yes, at the minute, the Hood Point Reserve is split between two MFA investment funds. One is the MFA short-term bond fund, and the other is the money market fund. We like to keep it in very, very safe, secure investments.
That means low interest.
Means low interest. Yeah, I mean that's the price you pay when you want to make sure that you don't suffer any long-term investment loss. The bond fund is tracking just a little bit over 5%, so we're still happy to see that return.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and our high savings account is it started out about 4.75, and it's probably just down about 4 now. So
yeah, and the other question, last question I had was on the transfer from reserve and the linear infrastructure maintenance. You said was being deferred till next year, or what exactly is
no,
that?
there's $80,000. It's in the capital budget. So one of the bigger piece of the project, about $65,000 of it is set aside for that UV filter addition. Thank you, Tom. So it's that piece of equipment. And then I always put in just a contingency in case a pump goes down or something. We always throw $15,000 in there. So just in case there's.
And that just stays in the capital budget until it's spent, or?
Yeah, if it's not spent, it just stays in there. I don't take it out.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Does anyone else have a question for Kristen?
I do.
Okay.
I don't well on a straight line without having lines underneath. So I just put my ruler under, and the $80,000 should really be beside equipment acquisition, replacement, and upgrade, not linear infrastructure.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Allison.
Okay. Should I move on?
Okay, I'm just clicking through here. Maybe I can stop your screen share to get more faces visible.
I can-
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay. So I have a little bit of a blurb about communication. So as you
Actually,
know,
we're not quite done, Steph. I have one more piece. If you wouldn't mind, I'll just finish that one. I'm prepared another report, and this is just a draft. It's just a modeling explanation. So last year, or not last year, I think at the last Hood Point LAC meeting, Steve Hoffer had requested some information about how we allocate our administrative expenses to all of the water systems. So while I haven't finished the budget or really done a whole lot of work on developing any of the utility budgets this year, what I just wanted to show you here was this model, which is hopefully it's coming up for you now. There it is, I think. You've got it?
Yes.
Great. So, are you able to read it? I hope you're able to read it. So it has just kind of an explanation about how we take some of our administrative overhead costs related to Bowen Island Municipality General, and we do share those among each of the water systems. So for example, we have a part of the cost to operate our works-yard facility, and then we take about 25% of those costs. We distribute them to water systems, and then those costs are further broken down based on a pro rata share of the number of connections in each system. So overall, under this model, you can see there's 1,304 connections. So when we take our administrative costs, we distribute them among each of the water systems on a fair basis based on number of connections. So every person with a municipal water connection ends up paying a similar amount for an administrative overhead cost fee. So there are, we do that with our works yard facility operating costs. We do that with, of course, our audit fees and our liability insurance premium. We do that with our IT tech consultants who support all of the staff for our our computers and our IT infrastructure. Of the administrative staff, we do share a portion of my salary, a portion of Patrick's salary, and a portion of Annette's salary, and charge that directly to water system administration. There's a piece for vehicle operations and maintenance, as well as the office expenses that would come with postage and paper and that kind of thing. And then at the end, there's a transfer to the general fund. And this is an allocation to reimburse the general fund for support for the vehicle replacement. So we estimate that we have 4 trucks dedicated to water systems, and we have to replace those trucks every 8 years. So we come up with an annual contribution to the fleet equipment maintenance fund that is paid for out of the water systems. And again, those are all shared proportionately based on the number of connections in each system. So this is not how this isn't finalized, because I haven't finalized the 2025 budget, but I just wanted to share this with you so that you would understand kind of the logical process and how we go about determining those annual allocation of administrative costs. So I can speak to that. I can answer questions that you may have on that. I'll stop sharing for the time being.
So Kristen, what I'm understanding is that it's done. We have 98, let's call it 100 users in Hood Point,
Yeah.
and it's costing us 24,783. Is that right? Is that the total allocated expenses?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
For administrative support. Yeah.
So if we were to break it out across the way, it would be $250 per person, $247 per person.
Is that the quick math? Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but divided by 100. That's,
Oh, yeah, sure. Yep.
and that's across the board. I'm just trying to fully understand what you're saying.
Yes, exactly.
So of the 918, 247 of it is for admin.
That's right. Yep. Yeah.
You want to say that again?
Of the 918 annual fee, he's saying that about 247 goes to support the administrative overhead costs of operating a system.
Right.
Yeah.
And one other question, or not a question, a comment. I have a couple of things at the end, but our reserve seems to be so much larger than other reserves in the 5-year plan that I saw. And we only have 98 people.
Mhm.
Is it necessary? Do we need? I'm happy to keep it there, or increase it, but it seems out of whack with the other reserves.
Well, it still depends on the age of every system. When is the scheduled maintenance going to be required? You know, all of the systems have done upgrades if they've done them on different schedules. They're all different ages. So it's really hard to kind of compare across the board from system to system. Hood Point did do a significant upgrade several years ago, and you did have a parcel tax to pay off that debt. And one decision I think that was made was to continue that parcel tax even after that debt was paid in order to make that decision to contribute to reserves. And I think has turned out to be a very financially prudent decision. In the end, we wouldn't be recommending that that those contributions to reserves be reduced anytime soon, given the increase that we've seen in construction costs and cost estimates. I mean, back in those times, we were able to kind of install and do things with a little less rigor, but now with all of the engineering and consulting fees that go along with every project that gets done, they're just astronomically more expensive than they ever were.
We don't want an overrun like the North Shore treatment plant.
Oh, God.
Right. And I think some of the systems historically have been less than good about putting money away into reserves. So Hood Point's been a good example of a system that's been doing it well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So any more questions, or shall I turn it over to Steph in the communications piece? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Kristen. So yeah, also in your agenda, we have the information web pages are linked. For the Hood Point Water page, we have a link to sign up to receive news. I'm assuming that most of you are on that list if you are in this room, but be great if you could tell your neighbors as well. And we have an email address, which is water@bimbc.ca. That's got Kristen and Patrick and Net and Garrett on the email, so they can answer any question you have regarding water. And I've just put a little link in the chat. It's just a quick 3-question little survey to see, you know, if you're getting what you need out of these information meetings. Don't mind taking the time. I've also seen that Sabine and Jesse have left, so I'm going to try to get this to them as well. Okay, do you guys get the link?
Steph, I haven't looked at it, but is one of the questions, what's a good time for the meetings?
No, it's not. That's never really a good question to have with people in the room because it obviously kind of works for the people who are here.
Well, yeah, but I'm just wondering if generally there was any feedback to those that are here, you know, that I would have thought sort of 12 o'clock lunch and learn was a good time to catch people, which is probably why Jesse's left. He's got to go back to work. But you know, is a different time, or is there any feedback coming from the rest of the community? Well, I couldn't attend because it's really a difficult time of day and I prefer X. Yeah.
Well, maybe
So-
that can go in the other field, I guess.
Yeah.
But any comments field at the end. Did you guys manage to access that link?
No, being retired, it doesn't, the time of the day, it doesn't really matter.
No.
It's more convenient, you know, what you guys, you know, what fits into your schedule.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
we've been doing the lunch and learn with Blue Water, and it seems to have been a good timing. People, you know, because if you're working, then you can, you know, use lunch hour, and if you're, yeah,
For those of us
tired,
that,
as you say, it doesn't matter.
for those of us that are working, the lunchtime is great, but I would also maybe think that, you know, summertime might be a better time than October, just in terms of who's around in Hood Point and engaged in what's going on.
So would you mind typing that in the field? So there's 2 questions that are like a yes, no, and then there's like a comments field in that survey. You can just type that comment in, and then we have your voice heard and recorded. Everyone okay with the link there?
I tried to click on it, but
Oh, it seems to want to, oh, I don't know what I've done.
I'm
now.
not actually seeing the questions that say. That's weird. Showing me a preview of it.
You're not seeing the questions? Okay,
tried.
I'm gonna do another one or try another approach here.
All I
Okay,
was getting was a Q active, a link to Zoom, and it wanted me to log in and everything.
okay, can you try this last one I just sent? Sorry, this is the first time we've done this Zoom survey, so a little bit.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it?
Oh, yeah, there's a survey now. Yeah.
Okay.
Now you got to get back to click on the Zoom icon to get back to where you belong. Technology's wonderful, but
Yeah.
so there was a little notice at the beginning when I joined about AI recording or something.
Yeah, I think it's just creating a
Yeah,
transcript.
I saw it pop up too, but I didn't read it.
Yeah, I just sort of, it disappeared as soon as I, you know, got joined, but it looked like it was actually doing a transcript, and maybe it's going to convert it to a Word document or something.
It might do that. I've never, I'll look into that as well. That's another upgrade. I'll see what the
Yeah.
results are and let you know.
I'd never noticed it before. It was the first time I'd seen it, so.
I have a couple of questions if this general question period.
Okay.
Now, is it? I don't know. It was at the end of the agenda.
No, that's fine. Please go ahead. Yep.
I have a small one and a large one.
Okay.
The small one, we in 2000, Hood Point in 2001, put in a fire hydrant system, and the fire hydrants draw off our 50,000 gallon purified water container, concrete bunker, which limits the capacity to the 50,000 gallons. I think they're imperial gallons. And Graham or Garrett, what's involved if we were to use a direct flow from Honeymoon Lake? If we had a fire, we could run water 24/7. And the only issue is thereafter, we'd have to clean the distribution system. How expensive is that? You follow what I'm trying to get at? We have unlimited water to fight fires, but it comes directly from the lake. We only have 50,000 gallons of or less of purified water, treated water. That's what we're using at the moment. I can foresee situations. The building next to ours at Whistler burnt down last week, and the hoses ran from 3 in the afternoon until 10 the next morning to control it. So if we were to use lake water to fight fires, what has to be done to the distribution system to purify it?
You would have to flush out all the dirty water afterwards with whatever's in the tank so you get decent residuals at the end point. You'd have to replace all the existing water with fresh water again.
Yeah, so you flush the lines.
Yeah,
It
but-
might require disinfection of the whole system.
Oh, wouldn't you have to do that anyway? If you used up the first 50,000, the water's going to flow through the tank directly?
No, everything going into the distribution system goes through the treatment plant. We don't have a bypass of the
Right,
treatment
but
plant.
if you were fighting a fire and drawing water, would you not be drawing it fast? Like, I don't know whether you draw it faster with the fire hoses than you could replace it coming in the other
Yeah.
end.
You would.
You would, yeah.
So there's no bypass where you could actually hook in directly to the source water? Because like in our system, one of the hydrants is actually directly on the main line before it hits the water treatment plant. So you draw directly out of the source rather than. Yeah.
Well, our hydrants it depends where the fire is, Allison.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
With
hydrant-
ours, it's long, they can run the hoses from that hydrant all the way down to the end of the line. Yeah.
Well, I think
Well,
Hood
it doesn't matter what hydrant you're using, it's pulling from the same system, so
No, it's not.
that doesn't change anything. Whether or not there's a bypass, I'm not 100% certain. I'd have to look at the drawings if anywhere when they did the planning.
Yeah.
They put a bypass in. Quite often they don't, just for the uncertainty that it could ever be inadvertently opened and then you're contaminating the water. It's a
Well,
consider-
ours doesn't run into the rest of the system.
Now we can pump about 50 gallons a minute. Maybe say in an emergency, we could pump 90 gallons a minute up to the tank. That would overwhelm the sand filter. Could just push that through. It might overwhelm the UV. But in an emergency, it wouldn't really matter. So if I don't know how much a fire truck uses, but we could push about 90 gallons a minute up to the tank.
Is it worth looking at putting a bypass in? I mean,
It's worth looking if there already is one.
yeah,
Maybe
Good
they had
for
one way
you.
back in the day, but I'm not 100% certain. I'd
No,
have to look at the drawing.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. What I'm trying to figure out is that most fires or many fires take more water than the 50,000 gallons we have.
Mhm.
We could save some houses, some are close to each other, by using lake water. That would make huge sense to me, and having a bypass to do it. So
Yeah.
I request, can we either look to see if we have one or how much it would cost to put one in?
Yeah.
That
And now
would-
don't forget, you also have a connection to Eagle Cliff. So in the worst case scenarios, and this happens sometimes in the winter, when the water mains freeze, we open up the jumper meter that feeds from Eagle Cliff 2 to the system. So if there was a fire in Hood Point, that might be the first consideration, is open that up as well. So now you're getting two sources to feed the fire.
Yes, but we've also agreed to give them water in the summer, and the chances of a fire in the summer
Uh,
are higher. Pardon me?
yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen the water go the other way, but
Yeah.
not my time here. Other than that one year, that was before I started. I guess there was a fire in Eagle Cliff, and that required some Hood Point water.
Well, particularly given that the LAC is now gone, I'm making this request to look to see if there is one, and if there is not, to look into a bypass and how much that would cost. And this is part of my second question. How do we get input into things like this? I mean, are members of council here?
Me,
Yeah, Allison's here.
Yeah, well, Allison, you're part of us.
So you can
Uh,
be like the email address water@bimbc.ca. That's got Patrick and Garrett and Ned.
Yes, but I've put the question on the table. How does the answer get back to us? And how do we make a decision about it?
You could, so the answer would come back by replying to that email. In addition, you can do public comments for council or write a letter to council.
And
Thank
there's
you.
also the budget information meetings
Yeah, those are great
where
opportunities to make.
everybody, well, there'll be another round of there'll be a budget information meeting where Kristen will be presenting all the draft budgets for all the water systems.
There'll actually be there'll be a committee of the whole meeting with
Yeah.
council in either February or March, hopefully February. And that meeting we will push out on the so you, as long as you're signed up to the Hood Point email address, you will receive the notification of that meeting. And that is an open meeting where you can come and attend, and you can present directly to council to have your requests.
Well, some of them are more urgent than that. For instance, this excess
PHMs, yeah.
Yeah, I walked into Patrick's office with 3 years worth of reports and said, I'm really concerned. There are people in our system who are particularly sensitive. What are we going to do about this? And Patrick was good enough to go and find the binders that showed the bleeding points, or some of them anyway, when we designed the system. But there's got to be a way to reach you without waiting for some scheduled meeting. I mean, and to give credit to the municipality, they moved quickly to open those valves and to open new ones. But I mean, effectively, we were sending bad water without notice to our constituents. So there's got to be something. This dissolution of the I understand that there may have been problem water systems and people in them, but we've been responsible. We've been running this thing. In 2 years, we will have run our water system for its 100th year, 100 years. We've done it 60 years by ourselves, and then 20 years as the improvement district, and now 20 years with you.
25.
25. And all of a sudden we're without a recourse until the next scheduled meeting. Especially since we designed it and paid for it and use it, and you won it by lottery called the letters patent.
The winner is.
I'm concerned.
So Tom, try the water@bimbc email address with your concerns, and if you don't get a response, you know, to say, okay, well, we can deal with this, or we'll put it on the list of things to hire the consultant for and approve in the budget, then and I know there's a calculation, Patrick, I think you know what it is, or maybe we need Aaron, but that says how big your water storage tank is supposed to be for firefighting.
Well, it's not large enough. I know that.
Yeah, so.
But it doesn't have to be purified water to put out a fire. That's my point.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're being.
So why don't we leave it that you've raised it? And I think everybody's heard. And the first thing Garrett's going to do is go and see if there is a bypass.
Yeah,
and
but I'd like Patrick to get us a quote on what a bypass would cost.
Yep.
Because,
Well, maybe there is one already.
There may be one. I don't think so, but there may be one, and then it
Well,
wouldn't
let's
be too hard to find out what it would cost.
Good.
And,
Thank you.
Okay, so I've got that noted for Patrick as an action. We're not really in the habit of taking direction from people, but I think, Garrett, you're pretty keen to make that happen for fire safety. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, just to repeat, we've got that water email. I'll put that in the chat, water@bimbc.ca. And the website and council and the information meetings this in the fall, and then we've got the budget ones in the late winter and spring. And I think we are at 1 hour, so I'd like to thank you so much for coming and attending and participating.
Are these meetings annually?
Yeah,
Yep, we're lucky enough once a year.
Well, we get 2 meetings a year. The next one you get is with council. You get all of council in the room with you to hear your great ideas. So
Which one is that?
that's
Which-
the budget one, which will be in February.
yeah,
Thank
so you
you.
get the mayor and 6 councilors to interact with about water.
Thank you.
And all of council did get the notice about the meeting today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it shows how much they care.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm going to close the Zoom now. Not too abruptly, I hope, but I am going to do it. So thank you.